Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and that is a bookshelf reorganization. So you're looking at a picture of my bookshelves before, and if you watch my videos you see this in the background all the time, and you can see that they're kind of a jumbled mess with books kind of crammed in on top and all over the place and books in front of books, and it's just got to be kind of reached kind of critical mass. As with most booktubers, I've fallen into the habit of buying too many books. So I thought today I would reorganize my bookshelves and make things look a little neater and make my bookshelves a little better organized. So just as a real quick orientation, this tall shelf is generally speaking where I keep most of my fiction. So in the very top left-hand corner, in that one box, the top left-hand corner, that's where I kept like all my detective fiction and a few kind of actual classics from the classical era up there. And then on that, the rest of the top shelf, the next four boxes, or three boxes, were collections of short stories, including anthologies, and then collections of specific authors. There's some literary criticism and books about authors and writings in the next to the last box on the top, and then my poetry collection, such as it is, started in the last box on the top, continues down the first box on the second level, and then everything else from the second level of shelves down to the fourth or the next to last level of shelves is just fiction, which is generally speaking alphabetized by author. But you can see in this situation it's not really alphabetized at all. On the bottom shelf, I keep books about history that I kind of classify as world history. So the first four boxes on the very bottom shelf are world history titles, and they're mostly World War I, World War II titles. The next to last box on the bottom is where I keep books about science that I've read, and then the very last box on the bottom is where I keep books about art. So reorganizing and getting this shelf under control was my primary goal in starting my reorganization today. And this is the second set of shelves. This is the set that's to my left in most of my videos, and this is biography and American history on the top shelf and through about the middle of the second shelf, but there's a lot of stuff on the shelves that are not books. And so one of my primary goals today was to make this shelf just almost exclusively about books. So if you look at on the second level, on the far right, there's just a shelf where I keep, stuff. I don't know why I decided just to pile junk in that bookshelf spot, but I did. Then if you go down to the third level, there is a box full of textbooks. Then there's a box full of journals of American history. Then the third box there is full of stuff that I've written, things that I've produced, along with some other stuff. And then there's a box of CDs. My God, there's a box of VHS tapes. The last box of the third level is shamefully where I keep my fantasy fiction. And then on the bottom shelf, there are more textbooks in the first and second boxes. Boxes 3, 4, 5, and 6 down there are boxes of things that are a part of the research I did for the book that I wrote, and some other things related to my writing. And then the very last box is really just another catch-all box, primarily where I put books about baseball and movies and things like that. So in looking at this, I could see at least, in my mind, I could see at least 8 boxes where I could put books if I cleaned them out and reorganized. And so I did that. By the way, I think I have the most generic shelves in the world. I got these from IKEA. I can't remember if they're called Bondi or what the heck they're called, but there are, in this set, there are 3 different sets of kind of the medium height shelves, and then in the first picture there are 3 sets of the really tall shelves. So Primarily what I wanted to do is start off by getting the non-book stuff off of this shelf and therefore making room to move books from the tall shelf here and make this just about books. The good thing about these set of shelves is they're really deep, and so you can actually put books behind the books that you have on display, which will come in really handy. Anyway, so here I go on trying to organize my books. Okay, so look at the tall shelves. They look much better, but things didn't go exactly as I planned. As it turns out, I have way more books than I thought I did. So these three sets of tall shelves, the first 5 levels, from top to the 5th level down, this is just all fiction, alphabetized by author now, with the exception of the top left corner. I have kind of classical, and by classical I don't mean like classics, I mean like classical works of Greek, Roman, etc. literature, and then my poetry is up there begins in the 2nd box, and then share some space in the 3rd box, and then the rest of that down to the very last box in the 5th level is just fiction. I didn't move any of the world history titles. I filled in some of the spaces there. I just left them on the bottom, and I'll explain why when we go to the small shelf. So the science books, the art books are where they were, and the world history books are where they were. But this does look a lot neater. I tried to leave a space to add one book to every box, so that at least I have some space before I have to start piling them on top of one another again here. And then here on the smaller set of shelves, I had kind of the most trouble and the biggest disappointments in terms of trying to get all this stuff filed. I was able to kind of neaten them up and make them look better. I did reclaim a lot of those boxes, the 8 boxes I had identified as things that I could clear out and use just for books. I boxed up all that other stuff, and so I was able to get more books here. This section has changed somewhat. The top 2 shelves are still pretty much biography and then American history titles. Near the end, there are some nonfiction but non-history titles, and then on the 3rd level down, those first 3 boxes are my short story collections, and then I was able to consolidate the things I'd produced and written into the middle of the 4th box. On the 3rd level down, I have my fantasy section. Then on the 3rd level down too, I was able to shelve some of those books, but some of them did have to fit in the space behind. Then I put my reference books in the last box on the 3rd level on the right, because that's closest to my desk, which makes more sense than me having to get up when I need to look at the dictionary or thesaurus or something like that. On the bottom left level, that's where I have my religion books, and then in that box, on the 2nd box on the bottom level on the left, that's where I put my detective fiction. Again, I had to pile a lot of the detective fiction behind the display books, because you can see I did not touch the last 4 boxes on the bottom. As a matter of fact, I crammed even more stuff in there. I just ran out of energy, and going through all those files and everything is a project for another day and not today. Anyway, these are my bookshelves, and I'm kind of happy I got them reorganized. I will have to go back and do a little bit more work on them later, which may be a lot later, which may mean that I never actually get around to it, but I am at least happy that I got things better organized. Anyway, thank you for watching.